Hey everyone, it's Nick with RadView Detection. I just want to do a little bit of a longer format video showing off some new features of AlphaHound on version 2.7 of our software. Still a bit in beta, so it'll be out in a couple of weeks, probably less than a week, but yeah, so here is the new software. So we have this new analog mode, so it shows us in log base 10 our count rate, so we can see we have 1, 10, 100, 1000, 10,000, that's in counts per second. And you can see we also have our alpha, beta, and gamma readouts. So if I go ahead and grab a gamma source over here, here we have 10 microcuries of cesium-137. You can see immediately our gamma count rate starts to go up, leaving our alpha and beta behind. Then of course if we have a strontium-90 here. You can see those two trade out almost immediately. To flex a little bit of AlphaHound's AB separation, I have two more check sources over here. We have two 10 microcurie thallium-204 sources. These are both heavy beta emitters, as you can see. And you can see we get no alpha crosstalk. And then, of course, we have our polonium-210 check source here, which shows alpha. And then, of course, we have a bit of our gamma background still. A little bit of beta pickup. So yeah, this is our new analog mode. I really like this mode. It's really good for quickly visualizing the layout of a radioactive source. For reference, here we have a Fiestaware plate. So you can see, relative to alpha, how many betas and gammas we get. So quite a bit of alphas, around 10 counts per second alpha. All right, next up we have our spectrogram. So our spectrogram is like a normal gamma spectrum, and I think the best way to visualize it is like this. So if we take our normal gamma spectrum, here's a cesium-137 off AlphaHound, and if you stand it upright, and the height of the peak would be the brightness of the pixel, that's what we end up with here. So every 3 seconds, we introduce a new gamma spectrum. And you can see here where the intensities are. So you can see this lower energy from background shows up pretty well. If we go ahead and introduce our sodium-22 into this, you can see immediately it scales background way down because the sodium is just so much more radioactive in background. And you can immediately see here our spectrums coming in. And again, it's like a filing cabinet of spectrums. Now what's cool about this mode is we still have access to our gamma, our flux, and our dose rate. So again, with a standard gamma view, you can't really see what's happening out on the high energy, and so we can go into our flux view, and you can see immediately we kind of start getting something out here. And our dose view, again with this sodium-22, there's a ton of dose that comes from that higher energy 1275 keV gamma that comes off sodium. So yeah, I will let this roll for a second to show you guys how it looks. This is one of my new favorite modes for being a passenger in the car, because it's really easy to tell when something goes past you that's radioactive. If you see, everything else will get scaled down and you'll see a gamma spectrum come up, like a single frame of gamma spectrum if it's like a semi on the other side of the road or something like that. And since it's 3 seconds per frame, if you will, per slice, it gives you a good amount of time to actually pick up on that. So I'm going to let this roll. I'll show you guys how it dynamically adapts and everything like that. All right, so as you can see, as the last of that sodium spectrum goes out, we start to get our background gamma spectrum back in. And again, this is in the dose view, so you can see how much these high energy gammas kind of affect our overall dose. But again, we can still scroll through and see everything here. All right, so that's it for this mode. Next up, over into our settings. So if we head over into timer mode, we can start a timed count. So I'm going to grab a Fiestaware plate, and we can take a 60-second timed count. So this is doing total counts. There's no averaging or anything like that. I mean, technically it's over a minute, and so we'll end up with counts per minute for our alpha, beta, and gamma channel. So you can see right off the bat how many betas are coming off of this plate. As well, we get a surprising amount of alphas that come off too. So you can see we ended up around 1,000 counts in a minute of alpha, around 20,000 beta, and 2,000 gamma. So really quite a lot of all three just from this plate. This can also be used for like soil and stuff like that with our sampling tray. So we can take some soil here that we think might be radioactive. I haven't done background yet, but we'll see what we get here. So ideally we move this tray to the highest slot on here. You can see there's 3 different levels. Just try to get it as close to the sensor as possible really for those alphas. So that's as close as we can get it without scraping all the dirt off. So we're going to go ahead and start our count again. So here we ended up with our total alpha, beta, gamma count, and we'll go ahead and compare that to without a sample. So you can see our background sample went through, and we'll go ahead and compare those on screen. So as you can see, there's definitely some activity there. I don't think anything to be concerned about. Definitely pretty low levels. But we know this dirt's radioactive. I actually have a whole jar of it. Next up, we have some no sodium salt. I have a big jar of it here, but we also have a sample for the sampling tray right here. So we're going to head back into our settings menu and head over to the timer and then go ahead and put in our no sodium salt. So this is actually sold at Walmart is where I got this from. And you can see pretty right off the bat, it does have some betas in it. And if we actually look at the decay scheme, you can actually see that beta component. So this is kind of low sodium salt. K40 salt is like notoriously hard to pick up with the gamma scintillator, but we can see the beta scintillator grabs it just fine. So you can see here after our 1 minute count, we did end up with quite a few betas. So that's our timer mode. That's kind of it for the new features. And then I just wanted to give some more information on how AB+G works. So with a normal beta scintillator, well, I guess we'll even go back further. So with the GM tube, there's no way to separate between alpha, beta, and gamma. If you get a click or you get a count, there's no way to tell the difference between the 3, especially not per particle. Here we're doing alpha, beta per particle, and then between beta and gamma, there's actually a ratio that we use. So we'll back it up one more step and go to what is a beta scintillator. So a beta scintillator is a scintillator, which again just means emits light. Shines, you could say. You could tell someone they're scintillating, and that'd be a compliment. And so a beta scintillator is actually a really thin piece, and typically it's an organic plastic that's really thin, and that allows betas to get stopped, because again, betas have less of this penetration power than gammas do. The gammas will fly through this, majority of them, whereas betas get stopped disproportionately high. And so here, this blue represents where our alpha beta scintillator is. And so the alpha scintillator is this zinc sulfide. It's like this white paint looking thing. And that's right on the front. That stops our alpha particles. And then the plastic scintillator is what gets our beta particles. And so as those get stopped, when we see this, when our sensor sees this, we count those as beta hits. Now where this gets funky is gammas can actually come in and look like betas. And this isn't specific to AlphaHound. This is specific to pretty much all beta scintillators. Even though we call them beta scintillators, they're just beta-oriented scintillators. They will still scintillate if you hit them with an alpha, beta, gamma. I'm sure if you got neutrons involved, of course, it would scintillate. The difference, though, is that with the beta scintillator, you can't separate between the 3 of those, alpha, beta, and gamma, in the beta scintillator. We're just profiling betas by this being really thin. So what we end up with, if you just have an alpha beta scintillator, of course with separation, you can get gammas to show up as betas. Again, there's very low chances that a gamma interacts with this, but when you have very hot sources, you might see betas start to pick up. Now with the AB+G, we have this new dedicated BGO crystal. This is a very dense crystal, and it's got really good stopping power. And so we use it to get a lot of sensitivity in this area. This is equivalent to about a 1 centimeter cube crystal for cesium-137. So what we can do is, as we have a source down here, let me go grab my marker. So as we have a source down here, and it's emitting, let's call it a pure gamma emitter. It's emitting gammas in all directions. What ends up happening is we'll end up with a ratio of gammas that fly through the beta scintillator and don't interact, and an amount of these gammas that do interact with the beta scintillator, again, beta designed scintillator, that interact. This was a poor example. I should have circled this one. This one doesn't exist. That interaction didn't happen. And it interacts with this beta scintillator, and our sensor sees that and goes, oh, hey, a beta's there. Well, it was actually a gamma. But with AB+G, it can go, oh, hey, I also got a gamma interaction here up in our gamma scintillator that isn't beta sensitive. And so what we end up with is this ratio of enough of these gammas fly in every direction. And we can say, okay, so on average for AlphaHound, we'll get 10 hits on our BGO scintillator for every 1 hit of the beta scintillator. And again, these are false hits. These are false gammas, or real gammas detecting as false betas. So what we can do in software is say, okay, there's a ratio between these two. Let's call it a 10-to-1 ratio. 10-to-1 ratio. So every 10 gammas we hit, we can expect 1 false beta. And so in software, we do just that. We subtract it out. And so how this works is a normal beta scintillator, something, photomultiplier tube, or just without separate scintillators. Right now, undeniably with a normal scintillator, you would have a ton of beta pickup. But of course, since we're doing this ratio, the device expects to have some false betas, and we subtract those out. But as soon as we bring in a beta emitter, you can see we punch well through that ratio, and we start to get our beta pickup. So that's how we do what we call beta rejection. That's an option in the settings. So again, if we hold down both of these, you can see our beta rejection, and you can rerun this. So if you are, different isotopes, different backgrounds, different instruments even, will have slightly different ratios. So you can go in here and rerun this, and this is the rejection ratio. So here we can see we have around a 7-to-1 ratio, where we get 7 gammas to every 1 beta, or in this case, again, it's ratio. So that is how AB+G works. That's how it separates out those beta and gammas. And again, it's a really elegant solution for something that I don't believe anybody in the industry is doing. So I'm really happy that we were able to integrate this. Some other cool things. I know we have a bunch of AB+G pre-order people waiting for me. I know, I'm sorry. We're working as hard as we can. We just got an office, so we're moving out of our 10 square meter garage into an actual office to build these things faster for y'all. I do want to say, though, good news. Majority of our gamma spectrums, this is pulled off of our website and then opened in Interspec, are now 12 to 13% instead of 15%. This is for almost every device going out. I won't quote it yet on the website because we occasionally get the oddball, but majority of them now, like over 90%, are less than 13%. So it's really great. And of course, we get other benefits too, like lower energy values. Next up, we have our Europium 152 spectrum. So it's not in log scale, so it's a little bit harder to see that low end, but you can still see. So here's down at 40 keV, here's 1400 keV, 1408, I believe, and all of the peaks that are fitted here. So really, it's we're definitely doing a lot better with our gamma spectrums. I'm very proud of this. I think this is a great improvement. And again, this is just going out with all AB+Gs. We're going for this on all of them. Again, can't guarantee it yet. We'll have to run more units and before I can actually state that, but it's really good right now. If there's anything you guys want me to cover about the AlphaHound, AB+G, AB+, scintillators in general, we got photomultiplier tubes, whatever you guys are interested in, let me know. I'm really interested in educating the community, and hopefully you guys can educate me as well with stuff. Just one last thing, I had a user reach out and ask about a couple of things, and they mentioned I don't tell a lot of the small stuff in the manual. So I just wanted to cover a couple of things. So here you can see we have an X up at the top. And if I go into a different mode, we have a check mark. What does that mean? Well, AlphaHound has a built-in system check that checks the sensors 10 times a second. And it's pretty much a self-check, like, hey, are you there? And it's a call and response. And so if it doesn't get that response, that check will go to an X. Now, why is that important? Well, with a normal photomultiplier tube-based system, especially if you're on positive high voltage, nerd stuff, you won't be able to tell if your instrument is malfunctioning or if you just have a light leak or the sensor is not working or something in your readout isn't working. With AlphaHound, if there's an issue, that check mark will turn to an X, which again, we've had no reports of, but it's there. And then you know your sensors are broken. Something's happening. Same with that little guy next there. That's a light leak sensor. So if it gets like this huge amount of light, it will let you know. So you don't have to worry about, are you missing a reading? You'll say, oh, the aluminized mylar was punctured. So it's really helpful to just quickly diagnose, are you getting good or bad readings? So what we end up doing, though, is when we're in an alpha beta mode that needs to detect alpha beta, we enable our sensors, we enable the readout electronics for that, and the check mark shows up because the call and response is working. But as you can see, if we go into a gamma only mode, we can actually save power by disabling alpha beta because we don't see it. And so you can see that's why that X shows up there. So that's all I had for today. Like I said, let me know if you guys want more information. I'd love to just keep rambling about this, but I got to cut the video somewhere. So check out our website, radviewdetection.com. We have AlphaView for this, so you can download gamma spectrums straight off the device. Of course, though, you can still view spectrums, spectrograms, a whole bunch of stuff on device. I really appreciate everyone. Thank you for your patience, immense patience from you all. And I'm really excited to get these out to you with the new updates and everything. This has been RadView Nick. I'll see you in the next one.